Time to preview the Nebraska game. I got a special guest on here to talk through what we think is going to happen in this game. All that coming up and more in about 10 seconds. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Jay here with Unfair Sports, talking OU football, college football, and sports in general. In this video, we're going to preview the OU versus Nebraska game just really quick with a special guest from the PG show. That's what's up. That's what's up. So, as y'all know, I mentioned on my 5 things to look out for this game, there were a lot of recruits in town. I'll have another 5 things later this week to kind of talk about what to look for when this Nebraska game comes up. Speaking of which, time to jump right into the Nebraska game. I know you're excited just like I am, PG. I'm amped because, I mean, this really isn't a rivalry anymore. The rivalry kind of died in the early 2000s, and that's kind of when you start to see the slide of Nebraska and the shift of power from that Northern Big Ten era to more of the SEC. And then as soon as Nebraska went to the Big Ten, it felt like they put themselves on an island, which, I mean, technically they are, and it just hasn't formed any better than they've had in years past. Like, they've just kind of just sunk to the bottom, and there's no chance. Now, they fired their head coach. So Scott Frost got the axe before the October 1 date. I was wrong. I thought Nebraska was going to let him ride it out, give him this game to hopefully try to win, to save his job, and then if it didn't work out, fire him October 1st and save about $7.5 million. Nah, they decided they wanted to fire him so they could salvage the opportunity to win this game. So Mickey Joseph takes over as the interim head coach. Mickey is beloved by the players at Nebraska, and there's a recruit there that I'm going to talk about more a little bit later, Malachi Coleman, that adores Mickey, supposedly. But we're also in the hunt for this young athlete up there in Nebraska. And let me ask you this. Let's just dive right into this Nebraska game. What's your thoughts on Oklahoma traveling up there, and how do you feel confidence-wise about OU's chances against Nebraska?
Yeah, so I have had mixed emotions about this game, especially after Scott Frost got fired, because I really thought that with Scott Frost, OU could easily walk through this game, probably put up 50 points, because this is going to be a game where you want to open up your playbook. You don't want to look vanilla, right? Because we talked about Malachi Coleman. And also, it is OU and Nebraska fans, I think, still consider it a rivalry. But I don't think college football considers it a rivalry anymore,
right?
Because we're not in conference anymore. We don't play each other regularly, which is a side note, a reason why I think OU and OSU need to figure it out, because I don't want that to not become a rivalry anymore. But anyways,
with that, you're right. It can be done. I mean, Iowa and Iowa State does it every year. So if you want it, It can be done.
Yeah, it's going to come up to OSU, and Joe Castiglione said that it's going to be OSU, and if they want to play that game. But with OU and Nebraska, this Nebraska team is we don't know what they're going to look like. And it's weird saying that after we've watched them for 3 weeks, but we don't know what they're, because I mean, look at that. What was it? 2017 when Mike Stoops got fired, and
yep.
And so that team ran through a brick wall for, I can't think of his name. The interim defensive coordinator that had came in. That team ran through a brick wall, and they played better defense the very next game. Like, they looked like an extremely improved defense. Now, later in the season, story tells, they continue to pick up some of those bad habits and traits, but that's kind of what I'm getting to here. You don't know what to expect. This team could come out here and look like a national championship team on Saturday. Now, the rest of the season, they could just fall off, but you never know how they're going to play for a first game. For the coach, a guy especially like Mickey, and you got to expect the fans are going to be extremely rowdy, because the fans were not a Scott Frost fan the past 2 years. So you got to expect the fans are going to be a little bit more excited, a little bit more amped up. And I believe Nebraska is going to want to get back at OU, because, I mean, since the 2000, OU has kind of dominated this rivalry. Like, Nebraska's only won twice. So I assume that they want to get that win under their belt. Now, I personally don't, because I think if Nebraska wins this game, it potentially puts Mickey as a potential guy to win that head coaching job, and I don't think he's the right guy for that position. So I personally want to stomp him in a mud hole so that he's not considered. Because I want to see Nebraska good again. I think the sport is better when Nebraska's good. When you have those small markets that are dominating college football. And Nebraska was a fun team to watch. If you go back and you watch the 2009 game, OU Nebraska, I was actually watching that earlier because I love to watch old OU football games while I work. That was a really good defensive battle in the trenches. Yeah, and I don't know really what to expect other than I know Nebraska's going to come out there and give us their best. And it's not because I think we're going to lose. It's because they're down a head coach. And I think a lot of those guys weren't motivated to play for Scott Frost anyways. And now they have something to play for. Now they're motivated.
No, I get you there. And the one thing about Mickey Joseph, as far as being a contender for the job, Mickey did play at Nebraska. I mean, he was a starting quarterback for them through what was the years that he was there in 88 through 91, besides the year he broke his leg before they played against Oklahoma. That really kind of derailed a lot of his career professionally. But I think Mickey's got some ties up there in Nebraska. Well, playing there, he's got some ties. He could probably bring in some of the old celebrities of back when Nebraska was really good. I asked this question, I think it was on Ty's show, Around the Table Sports, about why hasn't Nebraska tried to bring Tommy Frazier in as a consultant, as an analyst, as just someone to be around, because Tommy's probably one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play there. And I mean, he was unreal. And a lot of these parents that are big into college football, the kids may not know about Nebraska, but their parents do. Because I mean, my kid's a freshman in college, and that will be my age range from me up. Will be the parents that will be getting these kids into college now. They know about Nebraska. They remember those days. You remember watching Tommy Frazier carry all those Florida Gators and then breaking off and zipping down the sideline. They remember that stuff, so I'm surprised that they don't try to bring it in. So I'm kind of curious about the Mickey Joseph piece as far as having the ties there and if he can do it. But I'm with you as far as my skepticism of this game. Now, do I think Oklahoma's going to win this game? Yes, I think that they'll close it out. But my biggest concern is the same thing you said. Most players will run through a brick wall for these interim coaches for one game. The first game is usually the one. They're hyped. They're excited for the new regime. They're excited that this coach is going to bring in changes that the last coach refused to do. And because of that, that's where that excitement and that re-spark of a fire for these players will show up. So this is going to be a very hard-fought game between Oklahoma and Nebraska, specifically because of that thought process. Now, outside of that, just like you said, the fans really hated Scott Frost. They hated him as much as fans hate Scott Foster in the NBA. So the names always get everybody mixed up. Everybody hates those two dudes for a lot of reasons. And with that, I kind of hope that like Venables and staff picks up the phone and calls Frost, offers him a job in their new school of rehabilitation, pull a move that Nick Saban would do. That way he doesn't end up OC at Alabama. I expect him to end up OC at Alabama, but if we could intercept that pass, that would be lovely. So besides that, you got Casey Thompson's a quarterback over there at Nebraska, and he knows Oklahoma. He played against them last year when we had that miraculous comeback to win that game. Do you see him as being a big factor in this game for Nebraska going up against Oklahoma?
Oh, yeah, certainly, because he's a huge step up from Adrian Martinez, and look at what they did last year. I think the key for Oklahoma in this game is you need to get out big. The same quarter that you had against UTEP is what you need to have against Nebraska. Because what is the one thing that we haven't seen in a Nebraska game in the past 3 years? It's Nebraska getting blown out. They've played all these close games, but we haven't seen what Nebraska has had to do in a blowout. And so I'm curious to see how that Nebraska team is going to react. Maybe they're not used to that. Maybe they give up. I don't know. I think it's very important that OU gets out, they lay the hammer down, and they keep their pedal on the metal. Especially since, let's be honest, OU fans have not forgotten about the 1996 game where Nebraska beat us 73-21. Now, And then, the next year beat us 69-7. So I know in 2008 we won 62-28, but I would like to see Oklahoma, either give them a big old donut or, put up a 70-piecer on them. So.
Yeah, I need a blowout too. I think the fans need a blowout in this situation. And like you mentioned earlier, this is the game to open the playbook. This is when you need to go out there and show them who daddy is. This is when you go out there and you exert your dominance. And like you said earlier, the offensive line is a little bit of a concern, but it looks like Wanye Morris is going to be back in this game. And I think once you add him and the rotation of Tyler Guyton and Anton Harrison, probably at one of the other tackle, which probably be the left tackle position because Wanye is going to be protecting Dylan Gabriel's blind side, I think we'll start to see a little bit more continuity and chemistry for this line because that'll be one position no one has to worry about. Do you see an improvement by the offensive line in this game personally?
It's so hard to say because we haven't seen the offensive line healthy. And personally, I don't think Cade Matire looks healthy either. So I know BV said this is the healthiest that the team has been since fall camp or whatever, but it's so hard to say that Wanye Morris coming back is going to make that big of an impact. Like, I don't know. I might eat my words. I might be wrong because, again, certain players play better on one side of the line than another side. So maybe I am wrong. I just don't see Wanye being that big of an impact that quickly. So I think the biggest impact is going to be at the wide receiver position.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting Nick Anderson back. And so there's a little bit more depth there, but the question is, can Jalil Farouk catch more balls? And are they going to target Drake Stoops in the slot and Marvin Mims out on the outside a little bit more? I think those are your two key receivers. I can pass the ball to them, and they're going to put it, I put it to them wherever, and they're going to try to go get a score every time, especially since you use Drake Stoops mainly towards the red zone and those, or, when you're in a third and long situation, because Drake Stoops ain't going to drop the ball. So additionally, I want to see what they're going to do with the tight end package. I want to see a 2 tight end package or something with B. Willis out there and Daniel Parker. So I think really it's the wide receiver is going to be the key to this game in the passing game, just because, I need to see Dylan Gabriel get the ball out quick, and I know Nebraska is going to apply that pressure for him to get the ball out quick.
No, I can totally see that, and I think you're 100% spot on with that thought process because, that's the one thing probably, makes me a little nervous is we've got to make sure that our wide receivers are out there cooking. I think Dylan Gabriel goes out there and throws for 300 yards finally this season. This is the game to do it. I mean, we saw what Northwestern was able to do to Nebraska, and I promise you we're way better on both sides of the ball than what Northwestern is producing. But we'll be going up against a team that, like we said before, is full of adrenaline. They're full of fire for the new guy. So, PG, man, I appreciate you jumping on. Go ahead. You got something?
Yeah, so they are better on both sides of the ball. However, over the past, I would say 7 or 8 years, this is the kind of game that OU would go and lose.
Yes.
We know they're more talented. But the discipline has not been there. I have no doubt in my mind that the staff is instilling the discipline. The question is, can this team, who realistically, this is the biggest environment these guys have went and played in since Ohio State.
That's a good point.
Are they able to go in there and be a disciplined team and win a game that you are supposed to win? That's what I want to see. Outside of Baylor, Texas, and maybe Oklahoma State, everybody else, you should be more talented and you should be able to go in there and beat. And I want to see them go in there and finish the job, which they necessarily haven't been able to do in the past.
Yeah, and with this new regime, this is going to be the test for them. They're going to have to show that, yes, we've gotten past that hump that we know Oklahoma has dealt with over the last few years of not winning games that they're supposed to win. On top of that, not using this as a lookover game and looking to Kansas State, which is coming to town at a 7 p.m. game in Norman. Then when we all know Kansas State is being hyped by the media hardcore, they kind of got that rat poisoning right now as Saban and now Sarkisian states. Everyone's hyping them up. Oklahoma can't overlook Nebraska and think that they got to prepare even more for Kansas State. I know Venables' mentality. That's not something that he does. He's proven that in years past. They're going to be prepared for this. So I'm hoping that we do go up to Nebraska, take that game seriously. And if we are able to beat them with page 1 of our offense, we at least slide into page 2 and half of 3, just so that we make sure that there is no doubt in anybody's mind who the dominant team is in there. So with that, PG, I appreciate your time. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, y'all can find me again at YouTube, The PG Show, or any other major podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, The PG Show as well. You guys can find me on Twitter, The PG Show _. We talk about all things college football, so not just OU football. And then we do a lot of interviews with players, recruits, maybe potentially coaches down the line. I've reached out to UTSA because I would love to interview their coach. So we'll see where this goes. But we have a lot of great content. I've got a lot of great content planned, and we'd love to see you guys there.
Heck yeah, go check them out. You'll see this channel in the corner of the site. It's been awesome. I appreciate your time, my man. And yes, believe me, go watch those interviews with the players. It's awesome to hear the recruits actually tell you why they like this, that, and the other. You get to see some of their personality shine in those videos, man. Thanks, PG.